The Hollywood graves nobody is allowed to visit. 1. Michael Jackson is sealed inside Holly Terrace, deep within the Great Mausoleum at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. He died on June 25, 2009, at the age of 50, and was not interred until September 3, more than 2 months later, in a private ceremony closed to everyone outside his family. The Great Mausoleum is designated a private facility. Only families of those interred inside and people they personally designate may enter. There is no tour, no ticket, and no opening window on his birthday. Forest Lawn staff are instructed not to confirm his location, and the free visitor map does not mark him. Fans may walk to the outer facade, leave flowers in a marked area, and go home. Jackson sold more records than almost any performer in history, made Thriller and Off the Wall, and turned a single dance move into a global event. He is buried roughly 8 miles from the Hollywood sign. 2. Andy Griffith lies on his own private estate on Roanoke Island, North Carolina, in what his death certificate records as the Griffith Family Cemetery in Montejo. He died at around 7 in the morning on July 3, 2012, at 86. By 11:30 that same morning, less than 5 hours later, he was already in the ground. There was no public funeral and no procession. The funeral home spokesman refused to be named and refused to say where on the island the grave was. The speed was deliberate, arranged years in advance, to ensure no camera crew reached the property in time. It worked so completely that many of his own relatives learned of his death only after the burial. Griffith played Sheriff Andy Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show from 1960 to 1968, and the lawyer Ben Matlock from 1986 to 1995. Fans who want to pay respects go to Mount Airy, his birthplace, 300 miles inland. 3. Jean Harlow is inside a private family room in the Sanctuary of Benediction within the Great Mausoleum at Forest Lawn, Glendale. She died on June 7, 1937, of kidney failure at just 26 years old. The distinction matters. She is not in a corridor wall crypt that a visitor might walk past. She is behind her own sealed door, inside a chamber, inside a building that is already closed to the public. It is a locked room within a locked building. The space was reportedly paid for by the actor William Powell, who was in a relationship with her at the time of her death, and who was never buried there himself. Harlow made Hell's Angels, Red Dust, and Dinner at 8. She was the original platinum blonde, the template Hollywood has been copying ever since, and the woman Marilyn Monroe openly idolized. Her death shut down production at MGM and stunned the industry that built her. 4. Frank Zappa is somewhere inside Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles. Nobody outside his family can say exactly where. Find a Grave states it plainly. He is in that cemetery, but the specific location is unknown to the public. He died on December 4, 1993, of prostate cancer at 52, and was buried the very next day in a private ceremony. The grave was left completely unmarked. No stone, no plaque, no name, no date. Westwood is small and completely open, and Marilyn Monroe and Dean Martin are findable there in minutes. Zappa is not. Fans eventually worked out an approximate spot beside the marked grave of actor Lou Ayres, but the cemetery has never confirmed it. Zappa released over 60 albums, fronted the Mothers of Invention, and testified before the United States Senate against music censorship in 1985. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2 years after his death. 5. Clark Gable is in the Sanctuary of Trust, inside the closed portion of the Great Mausoleum at Forest Lawn, Glendale. He died of a heart attack on November 16, 1960, at 59, only weeks after finishing The Misfits opposite Marilyn Monroe. Visitors are permitted into a small section of the Great Mausoleum, the Court of Honor, and the corridor where the stained glass version of The Last Supper is unveiled every half hour. Gable is well past that line. Guards control the rest of the building, and the general public has not walked those corridors in generations. He arranged the plot himself years earlier so that he would lie beside Carole Lombard. Gable won an Academy Award for It Happened One Night and is permanently fixed in film history as Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind. He was billed for 2 decades as the King of Hollywood, and the studios meant it literally. 6. Kobe Bryant is somewhere inside Pacific View Memorial Park in Corona del Mar, California, and the cemetery refuses to say where. He died on January 26, 2020, in a helicopter crash in Calabasas alongside his 13-year-old daughter Gianna and 7 other people. He was 41. He was buried on February 7th in a private family service. The public only knows the cemetery because Los Angeles County death certificates listed it. Pacific View has a standing policies of never releasing burial locations and applied it to the biggest name it has ever held. When a tabloid published a photograph of an unmarked plot covered in purple and yellow flowers, hundreds of fans traveled there. The cemetery then confirmed publicly that it was the wrong grave. Bryant spent 20 seasons with the Lakers, won 5 championships, and took an Oscar in 2018 for Dear Basketball. Millions know he is somewhere on that hillside above the Pacific. Nobody outside the family knows where. 7. Carole Lombard lies beside Clark Gable in the Sanctuary of Trust, in the sealed section of the Great Mausoleum at Forest Lawn, Glendale. She died on January 16, 1942, at 33, when the plane carrying her home from a war bond rally in Indiana struck a mountain outside Las Vegas. Her mother died with her. She was interred long before Gable, and she has been behind those guarded doors for more than 80 years. No general visitor has stood at her crypt in living memory. Gable was so shattered by her death that he enlisted in the Army Air Forces at 41 and flew combat missions over Europe. Lombard was one of the finest comic actresses of her generation, brilliant in My Man Godfrey and 20th Century, and for a period, the highest paid star in Hollywood. She was the first major American entertainer to die in the service of the war effort. 8. John Belushi is buried somewhere in Abel's Hill Cemetery in Chilmark on Martha's Vineyard, but almost certainly not where his headstone stands. He died on March 5, 1982, at the Chateau Marmont in Los Angeles, aged 33. Within months, the grave became unmanageable. Bottles and cigarette butts piled up, motorcycles were driven across neighboring plots, and directional signs were stolen. On May 27, 1983, the town and the Belushi family quietly moved his body to an isolated corner of the cemetery. There was no announcement and no official comment. The headstone stayed exactly where it was, and thousands of people have photographed it while standing nowhere near him. His actual location has never been confirmed. Some accounts place him in a back corner of the same cemetery. Others claim he was later moved again to Illinois near his parents. Belushi was an original Saturday Night Live cast member and starred in Animal House and The Blues Brothers. 9. Humphrey Bogart is in the Columbarium of Eternal Light inside the Garden of Memory at Forest Lawn, Glendale. He died of esophageal cancer on January 14, 1957, at 57, and was cremated. The Garden of Memory is one of Forest Lawn's locked gardens. Access runs on a small number of what staff and visitors call golden keys, handed out to plot owners and almost nobody else. Cemetery records describe the garden as not accessible to the public. Fans have walked those grounds for nearly 70 years and gone home having seen a gate. Before he was sealed in, Lauren Bacall placed a small gold whistle in the urn, engraved with the line she delivered to him in the film where they met. Bogart played Rick Blaine in Casablanca and Sam Spade in The Maltese Falcon, and won his Oscar for The African Queen. The American Film Institute later named him the greatest male star in the history of American cinema. 10. Roy Orbison lies in an unmarked grave at Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles. He died of a heart attack on December 6, 1988, at 52, in the middle of a career comeback. His burial was intended as a temporary arrangement while the family decided on something permanent. That decision was never made. More than 35 years later, there is still no headstone, no plaque, and no name at the site. Fans have located the approximate plot by triangulating from the marked grave of director Frank Wright Tuttle. But the cemetery does not confirm it, and there is nothing at the spot to confirm. Orbison recorded "Oh Pretty Woman," "Only the Lonely and Crying," and was a founding member of the Traveling Wilburys with Bob Dylan and George Harrison. His voice was the strangest instrument in early rock music, and it has never been convincingly imitated. 11. Lauren Bacall. Lauren Bacall was interred with Humphrey Bogart inside the locked Garden of Memory at Forest Lawn, Glendale. She died of a stroke in Manhattan on August 12, 2014, at 89. Her situation is stranger than his. Not only is the garden closed and key controlled, her niche has never carried a marker. Find a Grave recorded it as unmarked as recently as 2023. No photograph of her resting place has ever been published. The absence of any visible record has produced years of public confusion, with some sources claiming she was never placed there at all, and the family has never issued a clarification either way. Bacall was 19 when she made To Have and Have Not opposite Bogart, and went on to Key Largo, The Big Sleep, and How to Marry a Millionaire. She received an honorary Academy Award in 2009 after a career spanning more than 60 years. 12. George C. Scott lies in an unmarked grave at Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park. He died of a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm on September 22, 1999, at 71. The lack of a marker was a family decision, and it fits him precisely. Scott spent his career refusing the machinery of celebrity. He famously declined the Academy Award for Best Actor for Patton in 1970, calling the ceremony a meaningless parade, and did not attend. He turned down an Emmy as well. In death, he took the same position. Visitors can find the general section on a cemetery map, but there is no nameplate and no slab at the exact spot. Scott starred in Patton, Dr. Strangelove, The Hustler, and Anatomy of a Murder. He was nominated for 4 Academy Awards in total. Visitors who go looking for him at Westwood usually leave having found Marilyn Monroe instead, because she is impossible to miss and he is impossible to locate. 13. Lon Chaney is entombed in the Great Mausoleum at Forest Lawn, Glendale, behind a crypt front that carries no inscription at all. He died of a throat hemorrhage on August 26, 1930, at 47, only weeks after completing his first sound film. This is a double barrier. The building itself has been closed to the public for generations, and even a person who somehow got inside would walk straight past him because there is no name on the marble. The family wanted privacy and got it absolutely. Researchers know the section and the tier. Nobody else sees anything. His son Creighton later performed as Lon Chaney Jr. and became a horror star in his own right, which only deepened the confusion around which Chaney is where. Chaney was called the Man of 1,000 Faces. He designed his own makeup and created the definitive screen versions of The Hunchback of Notre Dame and The Phantom of the Opera. 14. John Wayne was buried on a hillside at Pacific View Memorial Park in Corona del Mar on June 15, 1979, after dying of stomach cancer at 72. For 19 years, nobody could visit him because nobody could find him. The family left the grave completely unmarked. There was no stone and no plaque, only a shade tree in a cemetery that refused to release the location. Fans searched for 2 decades without success. In 1998, a bronze plaque showing him on horseback was finally installed, and the site became visitable. That long secrecy set the precedent for how Pacific View has handled famous burials ever since, including the one it now guards for Kobe Bryant. Wayne made Stagecoach, The Searchers, and True Grit, winning his only Oscar for the last of them. He remains one of the few actors whose name still functions as shorthand for an entire era of American film. 15. Mary Pickford lies in the Garden of Memory at Forest Lawn, Glendale, in the same locked enclosure that holds Humphrey Bogart. She died of a stroke on May 29, 1979, at 87, after decades of near-total seclusion at her Beverly Hills estate Pickfair. Access to the garden depends on a limited number of keys. The Glendale Historical Society has occasionally arranged supervised entry, and those rare visits are effectively the only reason any description of her memorial exists. On any ordinary day, the gate is shut. A woman who was once the most recognized human being on the planet is behind it. Pickford was called America's Sweetheart, won an Academy Award for Coquette, and co-founded United Artists in 1919 alongside Chaplin, Fairbanks, and Griffith. She was one of the most powerful businesswomen in early Hollywood, negotiating her own contracts at a time when almost no actress did. 16. Aaliyah rests in a private alcove in the Rosewood Mausoleum at Ferncliff Cemetery in Hartsdale, New York. She died on August 25, 2001, at 22, when an overloaded aircraft crashed shortly after takeoff in the Bahamas following a video shoot. The family purchased a private space rather than a standard crypt, and her father, Michael Houghton, was later placed above her. Ferncliff prohibits photo requests for the memorial entirely, and the alcove is not part of any public route through the building. Fans still arrive, and a small number have described the corridor, but the family has never opened the space or acknowledged visitors in any form. Aaliyah released 3 albums, sold more than 24 million records, and starred in Romeo Must Die and Queen of the Damned. She was 22 years old and, by most accounts inside the industry, only beginning. 17. W.C. Fields is inside the Great Mausoleum at Forest Lawn, Glendale, behind the same guarded doors that hold Jackson Gable in Harlow. He died on December 25, 1946, at 66, a date that reads as a final joke from a man who spent decades publicly claiming to hate Christmas. For nearly 80 years, people have repeated that his marker says he would rather be in Philadelphia. It does not. That line was a joke he supplied to Vanity Fair in 1925 when the magazine asked celebrities to invent their own epitaphs, and it was never carved on anything. His actual marker carries only his name and dates. Because nobody can get inside to look, the myth has survived unchallenged. Fields came up as a world-class vaudeville juggler before making It's a Gift and the Bank Dick. He built a persona around distrusting children and dogs, and audiences never fully separated it from the man. 18. Dick Powell is in the Columbarium of Patriots inside the Garden of Honor at Forest Lawn, Glendale. He died of cancer on January 2, 1963, at 58. The Garden of Honor is a locked private garden that requires a key to enter. Cemetery brokers selling spaces there advertise the key requirement openly because the exclusivity is the product being sold. Find a Grave lists the section as a private area not accessible to the general public. Powell's death was later tied to the fallout from The Conqueror, a 1956 film shot downwind of a Nevada nuclear test site, which he directed and on which an unusual number of cast and crew developed cancer. Powell was a boyish musical star in 42nd Street who reinvented himself as a hard-edged noir lead in Murder, My Sweet. He later became a successful television producer and co-founded 4-Star Television. 19. Joan Blondell lies in a Garden of Honor at Forest Lawn, Glendale, in a separate locked enclosure from the one holding Dick Powell, the man she was married to for 9 years. She died of leukemia on December 25, 1979, at 73. The two of them ended up behind different locked gates in the same cemetery, in gardens that share a name and nothing else. Neither is open. Visitors regularly conflate the two sections and go looking in the wrong place, which hardly matters because both are shut. Blondell had asked for no fuss and no service. Blondell made more than 100 films, defined the wisecracking Warner Brothers chorus girl of the early 1930s in Gold Diggers of 1933 and Footlight Parade, and was nominated for an Oscar for The Blue Veil. She worked steadily for 5 decades and was still taking roles into the year she died. 20. Sammy Davis Jr. lies in the Garden of Honor at Forest Lawn, Glendale, in a family plot beside his father, behind a gate that requires a key. He died of throat cancer on May 16, 1990, at 64. His funeral drew thousands of ordinary people and a procession of roughly 300 cars. They followed him to a place none of them could return to. The plot is marked by a white statue of a couple with the name Davis on its base, and his marker reads that he was the entertainer and that he did it all. Almost nobody has read it in person. The only descriptions in circulation come from people who found the door propped open while grounds crews were working. Davis was a Rat Pack member, recorded roughly 40 albums, appeared in Ocean's 11, and broke color barriers in Las Vegas at real personal cost.